Welcome to episode 2 of Disruption and Kindness. I'm sitting with my partner, the Caleb Monroe.
Hello.
And we're here to talk about brands, businesses, and how they impact culture. What's up, dude?
Not a lot, man.
How you been?
Yeah, been really, really good.
Good. Solid.
I think really exciting to be on episode 2.
Yeah, absolutely. The reception for episode 1 has really been super supportive.
Yeah, when you're starting out a podcast, when you're starting something new in terms of launching media that people aren't aware of, I mean,
Sure.
I had hopes for 6 views. We've definitely done well above that, and even the feedback that we've gotten has been incredibly positive. So,
people were tagging me in like their stories, like jamming it in their car, and I was just getting tons of text messages about the first episode and about how we really like upped the game on the production quality and everything. Like people were assuming that we were going to have like this like kind of a really rough first episode.
Yeah.
And, I think there's definitely some ways we can improve and get better, but just to have the first episode of our first like real solid piece of content coming out is just like,
yeah,
so cool.
I think the response that I've been getting to, it's been surprising to me. The people that come up to me and actually have full conversations, and even like had some people come up and ask me like, oh man, what you guys said about the Redskins, I totally agreed with Travis, or I totally agreed with you. Like it was interesting. I think one of the things people honed in the most that they actually enjoyed was the fact that you and me don't discuss anything until we get on the podcast.
We had a lot of like positive feedback on that, and that is really, really true. We have this, it's so funny. We'll be in the office and Caleb or myself or whoever's here will find something like an interesting topic, and Caleb and I just look at each other because we can't discuss it.
Right.
We're not like, we can discuss the facts or the outline so we both know what happened, but we don't discuss our opinions on any of these topics until we get here in the podcast studio, just because we want this to be an authentic conversation and we want to have like genuine agreements and genuine disagreements.
Yeah, and I think the point isn't that we agree on everything. I think the point is that we have authentic dialogue about it. And I really want to pull people into that conversation because a lot of times this is the first time that they're hearing about it. The people that are listening are hearing about it. You know, when we're talking about Planters Peanuts dying, or we're talking about the Washington Redskins changing over, sometimes this is the first introduction someone's had to that topic.
Sure.
And so they're hearing about it for the first time. Well, they don't get it. Like we haven't had a full dialogue on the side about how we feel about it. This isn't polished.
Nope.
I think we're just excited to be able to have disagreements and be shocked about the other person's opinion.
Right. For sure. I mean, I never know if you're going to like completely disagree with me on a topic or not. And I'm really interested to hear about what you think about a lot of today's topics as well. But, another thing that I'm really excited about to share with our audience is just the growth of us as entrepreneurs and also Monsoon as an agency. I'm just so excited just to be able to like give people like a behind the scenes look at like what does it look like to grow a brand agency in the middle of a pandemic, you know? Yeah,
and I think something that we just did recently was the partners and our families, we went on a retreat. We went out to Rio Doso, made sure it was an Airbnb out in the middle of the sticks. We didn't go into town. We didn't interact with anybody else. It was just the people that we've already been around in our own little bubble, going out to Rio Doso to really frame the next year, to just talk about the growth the company's had, to just be around each other and grow authentic relationship on that partnership level.
Sure.
And that was huge for us to be able to have it. And I think my perspective on that retreat was that I've seen so many businesses go sideways because someone's a good business partner, but they're not locked in step in terms of ideals and values and priorities.
Yep.
And I think that having these kinds of retreats where we can be around each other's families, where this isn't just a polished presentation, just about business. I mean, I have 5 kids. Bizzle, Travis, has 3 kids, and pulling 8 kids in and having everybody run around together in the middle of it, like that's a lot to pull in. It's not just business. We're just around each other's families, but getting to know each other on a personal level, I think is huge.
I want to clarify. I have 0 children. we have a third business partner that's not on the show just yet, named Travis Gibson. He's incredible, but he has 3 kids. We have 2 Travises in the office.
Right.
So
not confusing at all.
I have no children.
Right.
So it was super interesting, like having this retreat with like 8 kiddos and doing the whole thing. But I really love your family. I love Travis's family.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just been super great getting really close with you guys.
Yeah, and just honing in again, being around each other, like I think that's the healthiest thing that you can do for a business partnership.
Sure.
I personally have a hard time being in partnership with somebody where our values don't line up just outside of a product or outside of a service. And I think it's honestly dangerous. It's almost like it's a more intense version of becoming a roommate. Like you can
Sure.
have a friend and you can be really good friends with somebody and you guys can agree on business or services. But like when you become a roommate, when you become a business partner, when you get into bed with this person, like money makes people do really weird things.
Right.
Like business and running a business and being an owner is super stressful. And if you have someone that's with you
Absolutely.
that agrees with your ideals, that is sticking it out, that you have a stronger bond than just our business is succeeding right now, so we're happy with each other.
Sure.
Like it's really important. So for our continued success, for Monsoon's future, this retreat was really important, and it's going to become a staple of things that we're doing where we have more going on as partners on this top tier level than just business and knocking projects out.
Absolutely. Some advice that I got whenever I started out with business was, my buddies just told me, like, business partnership is the closest thing to marriage other than marriage. It's everything. I mean, you have to have a lot of trust in the people that you're working with for all things to succeed and to go well. And so, I don't know. I'm just really glad that the three of us have such a solid relationship, and our families are getting to know each other. And I don't know. It's been really good.
Yeah. I think there are moments in partnerships, though, where sometimes people think it's easier to just allow a conversation to move past, where there's just a rub between business and personal.
Sure.
Where actually developing, I know when we brought you in, developing these personal relationships with the partners, and it wasn't an easy process the entire time. There were questions, and I don't know this person. And like, I think taking the time, like there's lots of businesses that will just brush that off. Hey, that's outside of business. That's not important.
Right.
Let's just move on past it. But I think that's just setting yourself up for bigger disagreements in the future instead of sitting down, taking the time to vulnerably understand each other and where you're coming from and actively move forward in peace and with something being resolved together. It's huge. So taking the time to throw each other into stressful environments. You don't have kids. Here's 8. Have them run around. They're about to jump off the balcony. Like things are happening that way where it's causing moments that allow authentic relationship and choosing each other as partnerships to continue to move forward and for us to wrestle through these things together. So, was there anything about the retreat that stuck out to you?
It was just good to get away. I mean, I think that COVID just kind of kept everyone tied down, and I think a lot of people in the country are still tied down. But it was just nice to get away with you guys off into the mountains and just kind of get a change of scenery, you know?
For sure.
So.
For sure. Outside of just the personal topics that we have, I know that we're really wanting to start unpacking branding. It's a big tenet of this podcast is it's a brand podcast. So part of what we do at Monsoon is we walk people through this branding exercise, and we really juxtapose 2 different topics, and we force businesses to choose.
Right.
You can't be both in these exercises. And that's the mistake lots of businesses make, is that they try and play both sides of this coin. So one of the things that we really wanted to look into just today was the discussion between a personable and friendly brand and a corporate and professional brand. And again, you can't be both. Don't be both. But that's a hard thing for some people to discuss. And so we just wanted to kind of flesh out personable and friendly versus corporate and professional.
Right. So Monsoon had this workshop in place before I got here. Mm-hmm. So what was your rationale behind creating or adding the corporate and professional versus personal and friendly spectrum onto the workshop?
Yeah, just doing a lot of research into branding and just understanding that neither of these are negative, right? It's not negative to be corporate and professional. It's not negative to be personable and friendly. But after doing a lot of research, this was one of those tension points, I would say, within companies that people have an expectation when you swing one way or the other.
Right.
If you're corporate and professional, I have an expectation that you're a larger company. I'm probably, when I pick up the phone and call you, I'm going to hit a secretary. There's going to be some guardian that prevents me from reaching the person that's in charge.
Right.
Personable and friendly brands are going to be much smaller. They're going to be more relationally based. So I would say corporate and professional is more efficiency skewed. They care about getting things done and getting it out the door. It's not really about relationship. It's about effectiveness. And then the personable and friendly, they're going to really put emphasis on relationship, getting to know you, having, hey, this is my name. You pick up the phone, you're going to reach me. Like, and again, neither are negative, but sometimes people try and be both. And that's when things really get messy for a lot of businesses. So in terms of why friendly and versus professional is, I think it causes a lot of damage to a business when they try and be both. Because I think you confuse the client on, are you here for business? Are you wanting a relationship with me? Like, which are you trying to accomplish? How should I categorize our relationship? Is this strictly, I'm going to pick up the phone, call you, we're going to get things done? Or is it, hey, how's your family? How's your kids? What's going on with you? And developing that kind of a relationship. Where's the value being added, right? And I think that if you are corporate and professional, if you are efficiency minded as a business, it's okay to not pursue being personable and friendly. It's okay to just focus on, we get it done, But I think if you're wanting the relationship, then don't put barriers in between that relationship. Don't try and be so professional, because when businesses don't realize they've been selling personable and friendly, and then they try and scale and people lose access to that relationship, that's when people get offended. That's when you lose your customer base. And I've seen it happen way too many times. So it was important distinction for me to make as we're trying to design things for people and build things for people, is this balance between personable and friendly, and just choosing one and fully living into it. So for you, like we said, we had this exercise already when we started it. You've been through lots of these branding exercises. So for personable and friendly versus corporate and professional, I mean, how have you seen that play out?
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you think that personal and friendly brands are typically smaller. Is that like true across the board, or do you ever see any larger brands that rock personal and friendly as a company culture? Because we work with a lot of like small to mid-sized service-based industries, and so we have a lot of people that we want to be known by good relationships and good old-fashioned values and handshakes and all that. And so I've seen a lot of small to mid-sized businesses trying to do the personable and friendly thing, like, oh, we don't want to be too rigid or too stuffy, or even we even work with some smaller companies that they want to be seen as corporate and professional, and they don't want to be seen as immature, and they want to look larger than they are. So do you ever see larger brands play, really go into the personable and friendly persona very much? Or
yeah, I mean, honestly, I would say it's a 90-10 split. I think if you're going to be personable and friendly and you're saying, hey, as a business, we value relationship, that means that we value taking the time. This isn't just an efficiency game for us. Like, it's not about scaling. It's about taking care of a smaller client base and having a single touch point of relationship. I think you're going to set yourself up, just people's inference that they're going to make. I'm going to infer that you are a smaller company because you are valuing relationship, because it's a value add for you, right? I see people sacrifice when they scale. This is the number one thing that gets sacrificed is the relationship, the personable and friendly side. People who used to be the owners, and you start out very small and it's just you and you're rocking it out. It's mom and pop, you're grinding. Like, you're the touch point. You're the one that's selling. You're the one that's fulfilling. You have a smaller company mindset, and it's very personable and friendly. It is your relationship. People are working with you because they like you and they know you and they trust you. As you scale, you can't always be the touch point. It's not feasible anymore. But if people have started, and that's the direction that you've promised them, is that, hey, now that we're getting bigger, hey, instead of talking to me, talk to my project lead, talk to my account manager, talk to this person instead of me. That's when things can get a little weird, because they're losing access to the number one thing that you sold them in the first place. So I don't think it's across the board 100% true if you're personal and friendly or small, but I think that larger businesses, like, for example, if you want to look at a large business that I think is doing personable and friendly really well, most insurance agencies, State Farm, you talk about realtors, like Coldwell, is a huge business, but they're able to provide that singular touch point where I'm not being tossed around Coldwell from realtor to realtor to different touch point to different touch point. I have my guy. He's my guy. Same thing with State Farm. I have my guy, and I think you can still pass personable and friendly if I have a single relational touch point. I think if I'm being tossed from person to person to person, like, that's more corporate professional. It's not about developing a singular relationship that can thrive over time. Our realtors sends us like birthday cards and other stuff in the mail because he's leans into that personable and friendly relational side. And it's a touch point for us to keep aware. That's a value add that he's adding. But I think it can be done. The big difference maker to me is, are there multiple touch points or are there not?
Okay. I see you. So what are some examples of a corporate and professional brand? And what are some examples of personal and friendly? I know you mentioned State Farm as a larger company, but typically, what would you say a personal and friendly brand looks like?
Personal and friendly, like I was mentioning, was
Right.
that State Farm, most of the realtors. I think any like ones that you find at farmers markets, small mom and pops, like any smaller businesses are going to fit into that personal and friendly. They really lean into that relational touch point that's there. Any brands that are selling themselves, like if I name my company after myself, that's going to be a personable and friendly one. That's not
Right.
going to be a corporate and professional. I want you to connect to me.
Okay.
Whether that's Caleb Monroe Floral or Caleb Monroe Realty, I want you to connect to me. And
Sure.
so that's a personable and friendly one. It's not corporate and professional. Any companies like Monsoon or McDonald's, it's a nameless, faceless organization. There's not a relational person to really connect to. So it's corporate and professional. So I would say most of your like cell phone carriers, for example, or internet service providers, these are really good examples of corporate, professional, big, churning entities like Walmart. Like they're just corporate and professional. They're there for you to get your product, get your service, get out the door. And you're calling up, but I'm not calling up the same person. I'm calling up and I'm reaching any number of people who may be inside the United States or not with my problem.
Right.
But they're able to shield the people that are in charge because of how big their organization is. It is incredibly difficult if I tried to go reach the CEO of AT&T right now
Sure.
versus trying to go reach the CEO of any small business that I have or the realtor that I have, right? Like there's fewer barriers. So that's a big difference between corporate and professional and personable and friendly brands. That's why I like to usually juxtapose it along the scale of the business and how large it is, because how many more touch points you have to get through to get to the person in charge.
Right. So let's say that someone has started a business like a smaller brand and they've really done the personal and friendly thing, but they're growing and they're scaling out and they're getting bigger and bigger all the time. How can a brand transition from being personal and friendly to corporate and professional without harming their client base?
Yeah, I think if you've discovered that your business, in order to grow, the current bottleneck is your time. The current bottleneck is you're the customer service agent. When your client has an issue, they're calling you up. And now that you have, that didn't used to be a problem when you had 5 clients or 10 clients, but now that you have 100 clients and they're calling you up, like that becomes a bottleneck. And I think if you've determined that I don't need the personable and friendly side, we have a product that stands on its own, relationship isn't as big of a value add, I need to transition these people to talking to someone else that has more freed up time. If you've determined that, and that's the direction that your business needs to go, like that transition is really hard to make because you have the current people that are paying for your services, that are supporting your business financially. They're the ones that you don't want to offend. And so many people just remove themselves from the equation and they think, this account manager will do the same for them. It's going to satisfy that relationship. And they don't realize that that client now feels snubbed.
Right.
That person feels offended because you're essentially communicating to them, you're not worth my time anymore. Like, I'm too important to take your call anymore. Here, talk to this guy that you don't know that's fresh out of college. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And I think that initial transition is difficult to make because you can offend a lot of people. So doing it well, I honestly believe that the best way to do it well is to identify the people that want to be taken along, that has been a very big value add to you, and continue to do that for them. And slowly transition it over to where maybe instead of it being a hard cold turkey cutoff point where you're now just talking to my account manager, like you will pull that account manager in on several meetings, get them used to it, let them see the value that other person is bringing in. Whoever you want to shoulder that burden over onto needs to be brought along in a slower transition, I would say, than such a harsh one.
Right.
Where that person is seeing the value, you're able to communicate that, and you're able to carry them along the journey of, hey, we're scaling and we're growing. I want to take care of you still, but I need to be more freed up. If you have 80% of your problems can be tackled by this guy. For the 20%, here's my number. Still call me. Like, keep that touch point that's there and continue to grow. Over time, they'll get used to the account manager. Over time, they'll get used to you scaling. Like, it's about Business owners learn over the course of the years of growing their business how to carry this boulder on top of their shoulders of the expectations and experience and problems and how to actually own their company, how to grow it. It's this huge boulder is the picture that I like to say that they're carrying.
Right.
And then when they try and scale, it's essentially like having someone else carry part of that boulder with them. But if you just throw someone into it and you just leave your part of it, like you're just going to crush that person. I've seen so many people, like owners, not be able and get so frustrated when the person that they put in charge, whose resume looked awesome, doesn't understand the nuances of their business and the nuances of the relationships that they've spent 7 years growing in the 6 months since they've started.
Right.
Like being able to transition, essentially disciple that person next to you into how to carry it and to have a safe culture for them to make mistakes without feeling like the boulder's going to crush them, I think is important. So
for sure. That kind of reminds me. So one thing that we're really wanting to do with this podcast is we're actually wanting to answer actual audience questions. And so us talking about that just now just reminded me of what my friend Paul Dangerfield asked. Paul is a fitness coach and is also the owner of the Pursuit Fitness Academy. And he asked, how fluid can brand and branding be without losing customer trust? I feel like that's a topic I haven't heard on a podcast before. So kind of like we're talking about here about what a brand can do to transition from personal and friendly to corporate and professional. How fluid do you think brands can actually be with who they are without losing the support and trust of their consumer base?
Yeah, I'll give a quick answer because I'm definitely wanting to hear your thoughts on this topic. But I think that brands can be as fluid as you want to be if you've actually put strategy, like if you're taking a strategic approach and communicating to your current client base. If you know who's following you, who your clients are, and you're able to communicate in a strategic way to them what's changing, and you're able to still understand what values they care about, why are they using your business in the first place, and ensuring them that those things aren't changing as you're moving forward, I think that you can be fluid. I think that you can make those kinds of leaps and jumps that we've helped businesses transition through all the time.
Sure.
Most businesses, when they hit the 4 to 7 year mark, right around that time, they realize, man, I want to scale, I want to grow, things need to change. And right around that time is when they need to strategically look at their brand and who their people are. And they can be fluid. I think brands can be incredibly fluid. It's all about strategically communicating to your current people, because new clients that are coming on board after you've made that swap, they don't care.
Yeah.
That's their first impression that they have. So really, the people you need to care about are the clients that you currently have.
Sure.
Your thoughts on brand fluidity?
An example Paul gave was that Tesla's kind of been critiqued a little bit. They've been kind of moving away from that luxury car brand that they've established themselves as, which Tesla's kind of an interesting case because, they've come off as this luxury car brand, but at the same time, they're also the only real players in the electric car game that's actually heavily established and doing things. And so them moving into, different markets or more affordable price ranges makes sense. But I think when you're a brand like Rolex, somebody asked Rolex, why do you guys never advertise on television? And they said, our clientele doesn't watch TV.
Sure.
Like when you have this established like luxury brand, the second you start deviating into different customer pools or different price brackets, I think you could honestly lose a lot of what made you guys great to begin with, or a lot of the customers that loved you so much. I think like it just depends on who you are. If you've established yourself as a luxury brand, it is super, super hard to jump into lower price brackets because I think you're going to lose a bunch of your customer base, because owning a Rolex wouldn't be prestigious if they had a $100 option.
Yeah. I think that Tesla especially, when you're just talking about electric cars in general, the product that they're offering, that already feels unique or exotic. And I think these are things that are normally attached to a luxury brand that comes with it.
Right.
I think Tesla builds very beautiful cars. They do. And just even the dash, sitting inside of one, like it's a completely different experience, and they've done it that way. So again, that's part of the luxury impressions that are happening. But from a product offering perspective, I think that Tesla's just trying to increase the amount of people that can have a Tesla. You look at Ford, they have a variety of different options and stuff.
Right.
And I think that I'm questioning Tesla currently because Tesla could swing full luxury and drop it add another 50 grand on top of their cars, make it only for a smaller pool of people, and to go that way. But it seems like because of this move, because of Tesla adding certain offerings and stuff that are reasonably priced and allow me to do that, like more and more, because it's an electric car, more and more states are now starting to have these charging pylons that you can go to. I think like in Lubbock, Texas, you'd be hard pressed to find a place to charge, but more on the coasts, you can easily find a place to charge your Tesla. Like it's becoming more mainstream slowly over time. So I think it makes sense that they're getting ahead of the curve by offering it, because the more, and I know that they're moving facilities to Texas. So that in of itself inside of the state is going to cause a lot more of those pylons to go. It kind of, more people that buy electric cars that need places to charge, it's going to create opportunity for people to start putting up charging stands for people to be able to charge their vehicles. So I think one drives the other. But when you're talking about Tesla in particular, I think people had an impression of them being luxury, part because it was an electric car.
Right.
And if anybody, like most cars, mine runs on gas. Well, mine runs on magic electricity. Like immediately it's going to elevate the conversation. But I do think there's a big difference between a Leaf, and a Tesla, just because of the name and how it's been presented aesthetically. So it's had a luxury wrapper, but I don't think that anybody thinks that Tesla's any less luxury, because I think they're doing it really well. They're communicating it really well. This isn't just a normal little budget brand shootout. You find it on a used car lot type of presentation. The Cybertruck that Paul mentioned and other things, like they had a huge announcement for. It was very big, and it still felt luxury because of how they were bringing it to the market. So I think I don't think that I think Tesla is able to be fluid that way and expand themselves into both fronts, where they can find people that want to purchase Tesla into a lower price range without harming their luxury status still, because the people that are buying a $30,000, $40,000 car, that probably still feels luxury for that demographic. The fact they have a Tesla is going to be something they pat themselves on the back for.
Right. So Paul, to answer your question, man, it depends. It really does. What are you trying to build and establish? If you're trying to build a brand that is, and this is another one of our spectrums we use on our workshop, but are you trying to be really affluent? Or are you trying to be really accessible to everybody? And the way you establish yourself on either of those, either side of that spectrum is going to really determine a whole lot for you in terms of like how fluid you can actually be. So if you are, doing the whole fitness coach thing, like if you are training guys like, I don't know, Chris Hemsworth, Gary V, I don't know, just think about like celebrities, and you've established yourself as like, I'm the fitness trainer for celebrities, then you'll probably attract a lot more celebrities. But the second you start working at a LA Fitness, some of those clients may dry up, or they might not be as interested anymore. So it really just totally depends on what you're trying to build. Yeah.
At the end of the day, brand fluidity is possible as long as you communicate to your clients. The current ones, the people that carry your torch, that love working with you, that are excited to work with you, that have loyalty, those are the ones that you need to communicate the change to. Bring them into the topic, bring them into the conversation that's happening. But as long as you're communicating, I think that your brand can be fluid. Just don't be constantly fluid, I guess. It would just be another thing I would say. I think if you're going to make a decision, probably every 4 years, make a decision and stick with that and really dig into it and build some brand equity by being consistent to whatever you choose to do.
Be anchored somewhere. I think that, and as we'll discuss like some of these other topics we got today, I mean, it's okay to take risks. It's okay to try something new with your brand, but have a North Star. Have something you're always looking to embody and to be, so that if things don't work out, or if certain gambles don't play out, you can always go back to your North Star. You can always go back to your foundation of who your company is and what it can authentically carry.
So topic that we currently have, we like bringing topics of culture and business that's happening right now. So people may not be aware, but there's currently a very large fight happening between Apple and Fortnite. And the Fortnite creators, Epic Games. So give you guys a quick rundown on what's happening and kind of why you should care. Fortnite, hugely popular game. Most people have seen kids flossing and doing crazy dances and winning Fortnite and Battle Royale games that are happening. But they created an Apple version, and they created a mobile version for the Apple Store and Google. So they launched them on there. It's been crazy successful in generating money and revenue. But what you may not know is that Apple takes a 30% cut of any sales that are made through in-app purchases across the board. Any game, any app, it's a flat 30%. You sell a $100 in-game package, $30 goes to Apple every single time. So developers have been really upset about this for a while. What are you gonna say?
Well, it's virtually been that way since the App Store's been around, period. Apple's always taken a 30% cut.
Exactly. Apple's created the App Store. It is where people go. It's where people are spending money. It's huge. But there aren't very many options for developers. If you're going to be mobile, you're going to be on the App Store, you're going to be on Android, you're going to be on Google. There's not that many options. So they know that, and it's a 30% cut for any in-app purchases. Well, Epic Games got really upset about that. Turns out they generated, let me pull up the statistic exactly. They generated over $1.2 billion in spending on the game since they've launched on the App Store. That means that $360 million went into Apple's pocket just for having their game on their platform.
Yep.
That's a huge amount of money.
That's a ton.
So Epic got really frustrated about this, and they decided to circumvent Apple's transactions in-app. They created a different platform that allowed them to offer the exact same amount of V-Bucks at a lower rate off the App Store than on it. And so they circumvented people around it to where people, consumers, I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy it through the App Store. I get less for more like money. So I'm going to go off-site and I'm going to buy it that way. So they put that in their game to redirect people off-site to purchase it and then have it applied in-game. Well, Apple clearly got very upset because their cash cow was cashing out.
Right.
And so Apple and Google both removed Fortnite from their App Store.
Altogether.
Completely removed it. So apparently this was the plan all along because Epic Games went to legal immediately and sued Apple for removing them from their store. Well, when the lawsuit happened, Apple decided to take it a step further, put more pressure on them. Turns out Epic Games is also the owner of Unreal Engine. Now, for those that don't know, Unreal Engine is a software that's actually used to build games.
Right.
Tens of thousands of developer studios use Unreal Engine to develop their games.
Right.
Apple decided to remove Unreal Engine from their developer store. They didn't have a developer account anymore. That means that all tens of thousands of development studios did not have access to keep their games updated on the App Store either. So it was a huge power move from Apple, basically saying, hey, if you're going to be like this, we're also going to remove this other income source from you, and we're not going to make you a good choice for game studios. Essentially trying to crater Epic Games on the side. So Epic Games went in, talked to the judge, asked them to force Apple to put them back in the App Store and to add their developer account back in. The judge, I think he made a good decision here. He said, hey, no, you guys kind of violated terms of service. We're going to leave Fortnite out of the App Store, but Apple, you're kind of being a little heavy-handed here. We're going to add, you have to add the Unreal Engine back to the developer account. And there's no reason to harm these other development studios that are using this. That's not really in the conversation. So very interesting monopoly, crazy things that are happening right now. But there's lots of developers, lots of mobile game studios that are really hoping that Epic Games wins this lawsuit, because if they do, it's going to open up so many more lawsuits against Apple for how much money they've been taking.
Yeah.
So just incredibly crazy thoughts. I'm concerned about Apple as a monopoly. I think lots of people, there's very current conversations about Apple, about Facebook, about Google, about these infrastructures that they've created. And people are wondering, a digital monopoly, essentially, is that happening right now? And kind of what are your thoughts?
It's been 30% the entire time. Mm-hmm. That's an industry standard. Everyone that puts their apps on the App Store, and I was hoping to build apps in 2014 and 2015. Mm-hmm. So I was a part of an app development company. We knew that any ad revenue or in-app purchases that were going to be coming through our software was going to get a 30% Apple tax. Everyone knows this. So it's weird when you have a wildly successful app like Fortnite suddenly so upset that Apple's taking 30%, whereas Apple has made their game vastly more accessible to the marketplace to begin with. So I don't know. I feel like Apple's within the right to charge their 30%. They've been doing it this entire time successfully. It's their platform. If Epic Games is so upset about Apple taking 30%, how about Epic Games go and create their own app store and do their own thing? That's the reality of it.
Sure.
You create a better app store, make a better product, give more value to other developers, de-incentivize developers from wanting to go and work and do anything with Apple. Like if other developers are sitting there going like, not only is Apple taking a 30% cut of the revenue that my work generates, but they also did that really shady thing where they tried to kill off Unreal Engine. And so Apple's not a very stable platform for us to be on because they're temperamental and they want to hurt other businesses based off a feud they have another company.
Right.
I want to go and place my game in a different app store, or I don't want to invest as much money into building mobile versions of games anymore. Whenever now I'm realizing that Google or Apple can crush our entire development or any
Sure.
money we're gonna make on the investment that we put into building a game. I don't know. I think if you want to bring Apple down like that, like create a better alternative.
Yeah, I think the thought behind that I can definitely see. Maybe if you don't like it, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
They provided the platform, and they kind of set the rules for that platform, right? It's industry standard because Apple created the industry. Like mobile apps didn't exist before Apple.
Right.
It just didn't, right? The iPhone was revolutionary, is game changing that way. But when you look at Epic and you're essentially saying to them, hey, go make your own. Okay, well, they would have to go make their own cell phone. They would have to go make their own operating system because it wasn't just Apple, it was also Google. So maybe they launched it on Android, but as far as a play for that being feasible, I don't see it because consumers are really ones that are driving App Store purchases. The more people that are on Apple products, the more people that have access to Apple's App Store, they would need to go. It's not like they could go create a game and people on Apple would have access to that product. If it's not on the App Store, they don't have access to it. They keep that locked down. Unless you jailbreak your phone, you don't have access to other installations that are happening. So if you're pulling yourself out of Apple, you're pulling yourself out of Google, and you're going to go try and create an uprising, you would have to start by making cell phones, creating app stores that are there, or you would have to start with Android, you know? And so I think that the options are really limited for these people, and I think that they have a fair complaint potentially to say, like, hey, that's 30% and it's just hosting it. Like, this is a monopoly. Hey, break this up, you know? So I'm interested to see what way it goes. I don't think that Epic really has a leg to stand on in terms of like a moral leg to stand on with their business practices. Mm-hmm. Fortnite in general has been taking advantage of teenagers finding credit cards and getting in-app purchases, and they've been completely fine doing that for a while. So there are lots of thoughts about whether or not they're the best person to potentially bring this argument to court. Because it's more of a big company versus a big company versus a David and Goliath scenario that's not necessarily eliciting a lot of feels. So I don't know. I think I'm interested to see what happens. I can see it from both sides. I think that Apple does have a monopoly on their hands for the most part. Even Google Store versus Apple Store, the amount of money that's spent and things that are happening, it's not there.
Like, I'm of the mind that I think like Apple should be able to do whatever they want with their own platform. That being said, I do think it's a really low move to, I think, go after Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Especially knowing that
that's messed up.
You're going to hurt other companies that aren't Epic.
Right.
You know, I understand wanting to punish Epic for what they're doing, or I get that. But throwing other game developers under the bus, you know, where they're investing hundreds of hours of developer time and investment into putting something onto your platform that's going to generate you money, and you're going to shaft those guys.
Right.
You know, I don't know. I think that Apple's really positioning themselves to lose a lot of trust from game developers. I mean,
sure.
Can you imagine the blow to Apple if game developers just kind of phased out iOS and their development?
Sure.
Like paradigm. Like, I think it'd be absolutely crazy, but I think the market should decide that.
Yeah.
Like kudos to that judge though, for protecting those other companies and saying, okay, well, you can keep Fortnite off of the App Store, but we're keeping Unreal Engine up because we're not going to shaft all these other companies that have invested into that platform and would be hurt by this feud. You know, But I don't know. I think Epic started it.
Yeah.
Epic started it, and it's an Epic. Epic is bucking back at an arrangement that they agreed to and have heavily profited off of.
Sure.
I don't know.
I think
Apple's in the right.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that there is a case to be made for Apple being way too big and setting standards for themselves,
Sure.
right? Because it's 30%. There's nothing stopping Apple from saying 60%. Like, I think there's a case to be made there. But at the same time, Epic Games picked this fight.
Yep.
They chose to. They knew what they were doing. They had legal already prepped for a lawsuit as soon as Apple did it. They know what was going to happen.
Right.
And I think if you look at any sane person and you say, hey, here's the deal. You make 1.2 billion, but you give me 360 million. Who wouldn't take that?
Sure.
Like, who wouldn't take that deal?
It's not like they have not profited heavily off that 70%.
100%.
It was just a stupid fight to pick, and you actually nearly harmed a bunch of other gaming studios in the process. I'm not for monopolies, but I think Apple's in the right on this one.
Yeah, I think we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how it plays out.
So what else we have?
The next thing that we really wanted to talk about is actually KFC.
Oh my God.
KFC has a 64-year-old slogan.
Okay.
Everybody knows it.
Finger looking good.
It's finger licking good. 64-year-old slogan.
Right.
They just came out past week and a half, 2 weeks. They launched a advertising marketing campaign where they have blurred out finger licking in their slogan. So they did this because of COVID.
Hmm.
They said, Catherine Gillespie, the global chief marketing officer at KFC, said, we find ourselves in a unique situation, having an iconic slogan that doesn't quite fit in the current environment. The menu isn't changing, and the slogan will return when the time is right. So it's not finger licking good anymore. It's their marketing campaign and they've blurred finger and licking out. It's good now.
It's good.
Is now the slogan.
Or it's expletive.
It's expletive good. So it's a very interesting take on it. And I think to just clarify, they're removing finger licking because one of the things you're not supposed to do with COVID is touch your face or put your fingers in your mouth. So the fact that it's finger licking good, they're just kind of taking a stance on like raising awareness about health stuff, but at the same time changing their slogan, I guess. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
It's hard to know until like you see the numbers at the very, very end of the day. But my initial thoughts on it, it's just kind of dumb, in my opinion. I mean, I think from an aesthetic standpoint, blurring out a word in between it's and good can look kind of weird. You know, it can kind of feel weird. But also, like, how else are you supposed to consume their product?
Right.
Like, I've never sat down with a bucket of fried chicken with a fork and a knife and gone after it.
Chopsticks.
Like, surely you've washed your hands before you started eating this chicken, right? I don't know. It just feels kind of weird. Like, what am I gonna get COVID from eating KFC chicken? Like,
you do pull yourself and your company into that conversation when you bring direct comparison between the two thoughts.
Yeah, I don't. In my head, I don't think it's a great move. But again, the numbers could say something entirely different.
To me, it feels like there's a fire happening in a building, and somebody is standing up on a chair and talking about chicken. Like, hey,
Sure.
Bill, I love chicken too, but this isn't the right time and place to be talking about chicken right now, my man.
Right.
Like, I think that they're slapping KFC logos on fire extinguishers, essentially. It's what they're trying to do. And I think, did your brand need to be involved in this conversation? Or are you just struggling for relevancy right now? Like, what's the move here? And is it appropriate, I guess, right?
Right.
The reality is people are dying. Lives are being lost. Is KFC really helping push public health forward by removing finger licking from it? It just seems like it's so unnecessary to me.
Right.
And it's not the right time or the place. And I felt this way since the beginning, that I don't put it past businesses to take advantage of a good pandemic. I think you're playing with fire, though, when you put your marketing dollars behind it, because it can come across incredibly tone deaf. And I think that KFC did as good as you can. And they're like, hey, this has been our slogan forever. You shouldn't lick your fingers because, pandemic. So, hey, hey, still eat our chicken, but don't lick your fingers. Like, what's the real outcome here? They're not changing their product. They're not changing their services. They're not communicating an increase in health awareness and stuff that's there. I think that they're just like, hey, while everything's burning down around us, look at me, chicken, you know?
By the way, we blurred out our slogan. Look at us.
That's nice. That's nice. Saving lives, KFC. You know, I think KFC could have done a better move.
Right.
If they wanted to do branded things, like KFC could have donated to current first responders that are happening. They could have done a move to actually see impact happen where their dollars aren't being spent on running commercials that no one cares about. Like, to have a tongue-in-cheek little commercial, they could have actually put their money where their mouth is.
But that wouldn't have generated even a fraction of the attention that, like, messing with your slogan can have.
Sure.
And we've seen this happen before.
Right.
With IHOP years ago.
You mean IHOB?
Yeah, changing its name to IHOB to promote, like, they also serve burgers, and everyone lost their mind over it. But it garnered tons of attention for the brand for the first time in the social media age.
Yeah, I think when people were switching from IHOP to IHOB, if you remember, they just talked about it being IHOB. They didn't let you know what the B was for. And so there was like a few days of us just sitting in anticipation.
Right.
What is the B? Is
What
it the
is the
International
B?
House of Breakfast? Are you guys removing pancakes? Like, it felt like an attack on the P, the pancake side.
Right. That's left you hanging completely.
Right. So I think that's really where the majority of the grassroots buzz was generated. And it's, what's the B?
Yeah.
What's the B in IHOB? Like, that, to be honest, when they unveiled what the B was for in IHOB, I think it was disappointing.
I mean, I think some people were disappointed with it, but at the very end of the day, the entire point of the campaign was to get more people to consider going to IHOP for more than just breakfast. It was to sell more burgers, and it was hopefully to generate some significant social buzz. And they accomplished all of those things. They quadrupled burger sales consistently for a good bit after the IHOP stunt. They were at their peak. They were selling over 500,000 burgers a week at IHOP.
Did it stay? Did it stick?
I mean, I don't know what the numbers look like now, but in terms of, like, did the stunt pay off? Yeah.
Sure.
I would say so. I think it's honestly one of the more genius marketing campaigns of the last 10 years.
I can speak for myself personally. I would love for people, shout out in the comments, let us know. Did you buy a burger at IHOP when they changed to IHOB?
Someone did.
Clearly, people did.
Right.
It wasn't me.
Right.
I'm not going to IHOP for burgers. I could care less. I literally look at the first 2 pages at IHOP of their breakfast stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I know they have a seniors menu. I couldn't tell you what was on it. They have a lunch one. I couldn't tell you what was on. I never even make it that far.
I do think about burgers when I think about IHOP now, though. Because I remember the whole stunt. I'm like, okay, they also have, like, everything. So,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Clearly successful for the business. I thought it was stupid. And to be honest, I'm like, I'm not going to order a burger just because I think this is so asinine. Like, I'm like taking
Right.
a moral offended stance against this. Like, nah, the B was burgers. Y'all let me down here. Like, there was so much hype and it went to me.
I think it was a genius, and I think it hyped up enough people to up sales. And on top of that, other brands followed suit, by the way.
Sure.
Like Burger King and White Castle both temporarily changed their social media handles to Pancake King and Pancake Castle.
Sure.
Like other brands were piggybacking off of this. It generated so much buzz. I don't know. I think from a marketing standpoint, I think it's one of the more, again, brilliant campaigns of the last 10 years, but also something that I haven't seen them try to emulate or do anything crazy ever since. So I don't know if it's gonna be like a one-hit wonder for IHOP or what the deal is.
Yeah, I feel like from the data,
Right.
I'm there. If
Sure.
I was a marketing guy and we did it, awesome.
That's all I care about.
Exactly. As a consumer, for me, I'm going to be the old guy that's like shouting at the distance. It's like, you don't sell burgers. I'll never eat one. Like, I'm just not going to,
Right.
like, I'll be stuck in the past where IHOP is pancakes and just leave it that way. Like, I'm not coming to you for burgers. I'm coming to you for, happy face, pancakes. I'm going to crush a crazy good Colorado omelet. You know what I mean? Like, I'll go there for the pancakes and the omelet.
And this goes back in what we're talking about with brand fluidity. IHOB immediately went back to IHOP. It was just a month-long stunt they had that anchor, they had their North Star, and they went back to where they were at. So again, depending on who you are, what you're selling, you can change your name chain wide to IHOP or to IHOB, and then go back to IHOP, and then,
Yeah.
figure out from there. But
Yeah, I think it can work. And again, the data's going to be there for it. I'm not going to IHOP for a burger. I think there's way too many good burger places. Like, let's be real.
Sure.
There's so many good burger places. I'm not going there for a burger. I know what I'm going to IHOP for. It's not a burger.
oh my gosh. Crazy deal.
Do you have any other thoughts?
No, I don't.
Well, play us out, Johnny.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Disruption and Kindness and supporting us so far. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. You can stay tuned for weekly episodes where we'll be dropping an episode every single Friday. Every Friday. Also, don't forget to like us on Facebook. We're trying to do a lot of community building, and we'd love to take your questions and comments and your feedback there. And we're excited to keep making awesome content for you. If you have any feedback for us, hit us up. We'd love to learn and grow more and more. And you can stay tuned for episode 3 of Disruption and Kindness coming to you next Friday. See ya.